Alright, it's Noah and Miles here, ready for another exciting recap of a movie we saw. It's been a long time since I went to the movies. Went to Austria, been jet lagged as hell, and I'm getting to work on DOA and Final Fantasy X-2, which are going to be some of the bigger reviews you've ever seen me do, so maybe a little while before you see a video. Hopefully I'll get DOA out in a week or so, but I had to get out of the house, so I was like, we're seeing Contagion. I still want to see Apollo 18, but I've heard terrible things about it. You didn't see it?
No, I didn't.
You didn't see it? Okay. But I heard Contagion was really good, and so I went to see this one, and this movie was brilliant.
I really liked it.
Yeah, it was really, really brilliant. The comparisons to the Dustin Hoffman movie Outbreak are inevitable, because they basically have the same setup. You know, it's very simple. A catastrophic killer mutant fucking disease breaks out. It kills you within days, and it's a global pandemic, and so, you know, only a plucky team of scientists can find the cure, hopefully, and solve it. And here's the funny thing, I really like Outbreak, but it's one of those ironic enjoyment things. Outbreak is really a goofy fucking movie, because it's so cinematic. It really is, like, if you were going to make, I don't want to bring up Michael Bay, because it's not that, but it really is a melodramatic telling of a disease story. You know, it's very convenient.
It tries to make scientific work, which is usually slow, methodical, and plodding, into something that's exciting.
Yeah, so it tries to make action science, you know, which you really can't do. Science is very methodical. By definition, it is. You know, there's a scientific method. Whereas this movie, I was continually surprised by how mature and how sensible this movie was at every turn. And now that doesn't necessarily sound like it's exciting, but it is. And it's because it rewards you for being an intelligent person. It rewards patience, and it rewards attention. And it really exposed me as the jaded viewer that I am today. Really, no, because this entire movie, I was looking for the twist. I was looking for the big gotcha moment in this flick, because you know, Outbreak was full of those.
You know what this movie actually reminded me of? Now that I have more time to think about it, it's kind of like, you know, United 93 was kind of like a docudrama, which was trying to be real life, but at the same time trying to be a little bit cinematic about what happened on 9/11. Not that I'm trying to compare it, but it's kind of like if this contagious thing actually happened, and like a decade later someone tried to make a movie out of it, trying to make it like this docudrama about what happened in all these people's lives in that time. That's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah, I don't want to say it felt like a documentary. Docudrama is probably closer, but it's surprising how genuine it feels. You know, there's at no point in this movie did I feel something was well, maybe one point, but almost at no points did I feel there was something that was done for plot convenience, or something that felt phony or felt cinematic. You know, the kind of stuff with it. You know, the action beats in Outbreak. You know, where they're going to nuke the town, so he gets into a copter and he gives a big stirring speech, and the jet pilots veer off, and the really cartoony villain with Donald Sutherland and all that stuff. It's a very movie, whereas Contagion it doesn't feel like it's been scripted. You know, it's very, very genuine in that sense. And so, where do you start with this?
We're kind of we're having a discussion actually before the movie. We're talking about Outbreak, since it reminded us, and I was like, yeah, I like Outbreak, except for the stupid moments, like when the disease is first coming out and everyone's getting infected. Like, for example, there's one scene where his doctor's working on the different blood samples, and he's like eating a ham sandwich or something, and he's not paying attention, and he's like, oh, I'll stick my hand in the spinning centrifuge.
Yeah, he's like reaching for ketchup or something, and he sticks his hand in the centrifuge, and he's like, ah, my hand, it's all covered in blood.
Just laugh.
There's a lot of moments like that.
There is, and the thing is, it didn't need to be, but it's those silly Hollywood things, or there's always these moments of like bad dialogue where they've got to spell things out for the audience, and you didn't get any of that in this movie. It felt like it was just playing out. Like, it wasn't talking down to its audience. It was just like everyone else. It just went along.
Yeah. What do I say? I'm trying to not. We're gonna have to give spoilers at some point. Are there spoilers to give though? Because like, there's a disease breaks out. Really, the only question is whether or not everyone in the world dies. That doesn't happen, but it's really impressive top to bottom. And I don't even want to talk about the acting so much. It really is a star-studded cast.
It's really not so much about the plot, because it just that this contagion breaks out, and it's breaking out all over the world. And it's really about all these different characters that are interacting with it. The main ones are Matt Damon, who is the husband of basically the first carrier, basically. And he's trying to protect his daughter, who's not infected.
Yeah, sorry. You've got this. It's impressive in that it tells the story from the smallest scope to the widest possible scope. And it's really impressive how it can zoom in on Matt Damon's character, who's dealing with, protecting his family, all the way back to the global situation where Lawrence Fishburne and the Marion Cotillard, the World Health Organization epidemiologist, is working on this problem. And it's so seamless and so impressive on how it manages. You even said that, you were really impressed with how it kept all these plot lines in the air, but kept them interwoven to where there's not one of them you'd be like, oh, we didn't need to see this. We didn't need to see this from Matt Damon's perspective, or we didn't need to see Marion's perspective or Lawrence Fishburne's. It really was impressive how nothing felt extraneous. It all felt immediate, and all of it felt important. And yet you were able to get this full perspective. So many movies like to either deal with just from the scientist's perspective or just from the person's perspective. Like, this is a bad example, Cloverfield, where it was dealt purely from the perspective of the people experiencing it. This told like every perspective at once. Kept it short. It didn't feel like it was too much. Sometimes you can feel overwhelmed, like this movie's going to be too long. The editing in this movie, where it manages to contain all these stories, is brilliant. Where you even said yourself, it's so efficiently shot that you get this global perspective, and that you still could believe this was shot for not that much money.
Yeah, I was saying that it seemed brilliant in that it felt like an independent movie, kind of, because it was close and personal, but at the same time, like I was saying, you could have told me this was made for $30 million or whatever the small budget film is made these days, but it felt like an epic movie because it spanned all across the globe. We were in Hong Kong, we were in Europe, we were in America, we're all over. We're getting scenes of like this global pandemic where we're seeing these stadiums which are filled with sick. We're seeing army close down cities. We're seeing rioting in the streets, but at the same time, that was done through effective directing and not through millions of dollars in CGI. Like, you see the shot of 10 Humvees with military personnel, and you see a crowd of people, and that gives you the impression that the military is closing down. You don't need to see this epic thing of helicopters flying in, jets going overhead. That you fool the audience by thinking it's something bigger by showing a large crowd, but not having to show too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really the honesty, if that's the right word, that draws me to this movie, is because I just lost my train of thought. There's no clear villain in this movie. There is a villainous character in this, but he's not the villain. There's no mustache twirling bad guy. Everyone here is pretty much on the same side. They're trying to knock this thing out, but that's not to say they don't have their own agendas. There's people with their own political agendas. There's economic motivations, and there's professional motivations. There's bureaucracy, and really that's probably the biggest enemy in this movie is bureaucracy. There's nothing cinematic about a scene where somebody's on the phone saying like, well, there's no aha moment where somebody goes, I've got the cure, we're saved. Somebody's on the phone saying, even if we get the cure, we've got to go through CDC, we got to go through development of the vaccine for billions and billions of people. we've got to deal with this distribution. We've got to deal with human testing. And even if it passes human testing, it's going to take months. Excuse me, that's for me. Even if there's months of human testing, there's months of manufacture, there's months of distribution. We got rioting to deal with. We got, there's sensationalism. There's all this stuff, and you're just dealing with. It's for once you're actually siding with the government on this issue. It's kind of funny. The government's always the bad guy. In Outbreak, the government's the one who's hiding the cure. The government's the one who wants to drop an incendiary bomb on the victims to cover things up. And this one, it's full of nice people. They have their own agendas, sure, and there's professional rivalries and stuff like that. But it's so uncinematic in the sense that they just don't go, we have a cure, we're all saved, and then they cut to a peaceful field and people are in the park playing. Even if they find the cure, it's not a solution because we're dealing with the real world here. We're dealing with something where if this were a real plague that we're breaking out...
Well, it deals with it like it deals with any natural disaster, like a hurricane or a tornado or something like that. It's not about fighting something, it's about dealing with it the best you can. And that goes from either the personal stories of Matt Damon, or also you have Lawrence Fishburne, who's the head of the CDC. He's just trying to do the best he can with what he's got.
Yeah, which ain't much.
It's not a matter of like Outbreak where you contain a town. He's going, where do we have outbreaks? Hong Kong, Michigan, Utah, Arizona. Oh, wow. Well, we'll send out a warning for people not to be around each other.
Yeah, don't touch each other, don't breathe on each other.
But other than that, there's not much more we can do.
Well, he does everything he can with the tools he's got. He issues a warning, don't go out in public, and he says, we're going to try to analyze and narrow this thing down and figure out how it grows.
And the media and everyone's trying to pressure him into what are you doing? What are you doing? He's just going, we've got scientists working on it. I'm sorry, they can't work faster. It's science. That's it's the process at which it goes. It's slow. And this is a disease that moves rapidly. So that's really the story of this movie. Is it deals with what would actually happen. At least one would assume. A more realistic. Let's be fair. Let's go that far. A more realistic depiction of what the actual response would be to this kind of disaster, So you've got Matt Damon's character who sees this. What I don't think he perceives it to be unfair, but at the street level, the government doesn't seem to be doing anything. They're rationing supplies. They run out. There's food lines. People are nervous. The government looks kind of guilty on TV because there's alleged rumored cures and people don't know what's going on. People want attention because their families are sick, and so you've got this. You're dealing with from his perspective, and then you've got the wider scale. You got Lawrence Fishburne dealing with the wide scope. He's dealing with numbers at this point. He's dealing with how many people are going to get exposed per infection. How do we quarantine this, and how do we get this done with as quickly as possible, with as few deaths as possible. So it really is that response. This movie is the story of the response that would happen to this kind of disaster, which ain't. There's not going to be any kind of heroic measures that are taken here. It's you got to be smart and you got to be fair, and so it really is that public perception of the government or the lack of government's attention that goes into this, and then it goes into like global politics where the Chinese, they're scared. The Chinese, they have billions and billions of people in China as well. And they're trying to get, there's rumors of a conspiracy, like, the Western countries have this conspiracy, they're hiding the cure, and they're trying to kill us off, and stuff like that. And they don't really make a big issue out of that. It's just that kind of mentioning of certain political agendas. Rumors.
It's just rumors. And I really think it's that well done. And so getting to the end of this, there's so many moments in this movie where you're looking for the aha moment. You're looking for the gotcha moment where there's one scene in particular I really remembered very fondly where at the end of the movie, I'll just tell you, at the end of the movie there is a resolution. Not everyone dies. So Matt Damon is looking through his camera. Gwyneth Paltrow is one of the first victims of the virus. And so he's looking through the camera and he's looking at her vacation in China. And this whole time, he's flipping through photos, and it's a very slow scene. It's like a 3-4 minute scene where he's very slowly tabbing through photos. And I kept going like, here it comes, Here comes the moment where we see a picture that changes everything. We're going to see a picture that turns everything on its head. Like, oh my God, we didn't really find the cure. Oh my God, this is really the cause of the disease. I didn't even know what I was going to see, but I knew there was going to be some moment where he flips to a picture and she's like fucking a pig or something like that. And we're going to be like, oh my God. Yeah, there's going to be a dun-dun-dun moment. And that moment, it passes very quietly. He's just reminiscing. He's flipping through the photos, and there was no aha moment. You know, there's a scene at the very end where they kind of archive the vaccine they've developed. I won't tell you whether or not it's effective or not, but they're archiving the vaccine they've developed, and they put it away. And I kept expecting there to be some kind of aha moment where either they already had the cure the whole time, or it was some cure they debunked earlier, or maybe there really was some kind of conspiracy to wipe out Shine or something like that. I'm sitting there this whole time going, here it comes, the big twist. The big twist. This movie is really the anti-Shyamalan. I'm not trying to raise Shyamalan as some kind of bad example, but there's so many movies now that have that twist.
That's probably my biggest plus that I have for this movie, and what I admired it most was there was no stupidity, and they didn't try to do too much.
Yeah.
I mean, we're mentioning the centrifuge and outbreak and how that was stupid. There was a moment where a scientist was told not to pursue because it's too dangerous, and it's only like a level 4 bioproteins are supposed to do it, and as this guy is supposed to be the smartest immunologist or bioengineer or whatever, and he's like, well, that's crazy. I can do the work. I'm a level 3, but I can do it. And he goes off and he does a test, and I'm just going, oh, here it comes. Here's the stupid moment where he splashes blood in his face and makes the whole situation worse.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. And in fact, he does a good job.
He finds a breakthrough.
And so during this whole thing, there was never a stupid plot contrivance. There was never a dumbass moment where a character does something where he shouldn't have done. There was maybe one, but go ahead. Not really. Not one where I was just like, oh my God, that was horrible.
There's nothing I went, oh, that ruined the movie. This is bullshit,
There was no stupid dialogue where people are spelling things out for retards in the audience, or sorry, exceptional people in the audience. There was just kind of like Resident Evil where they're describing, oh, you shoot people in the head.
Yeah.
And there was no attempt at a plot twist. There was no attempt at a gotcha. So the fact that they didn't do anything special, and they just told a straightforward story and straightforward characters and what they did, I was just so happy and relieved.
It's relieving to not see them twist you. It really is. It's rewarding.
I literally set out sighs of relief when they set up for a twist and they didn't do it. Like with Elliot Gould and him working on the virus against orders.
Well, they weren't even setting up anything. That was just, this is me being jaded. This is you being jaded going, oh, here it comes. He's going to splash himself, and he's going to be stupid. He's going to get the whole lab infected.
And when nothing happened, I was like, whew. Like the movie didn't sabotage itself.
Yeah.
And I was happy that the director didn't shoot himself in the foot. I was like, I had such relief at moments. It was so great. I just, it was like a rush of exhilaration and relief went over me.
It really is. It's basically an exercise in simplicity, and not to say this is a simple film. Like I said, there's so many plot elements that are being juggled in the air at once. It really is an impressive juggling act in terms of editing. This really should be nominated for an Oscar for editing, just that alone, if not screenplay. But sometimes the best twist is no twist at all, which is actually what I say about wrestling a lot of times, especially TNA. Not to, again, no comparison in this case, but sometimes writers are so obsessed with twists, twist endings or inverting your expectations to where actually the twist is the expectation. And when you play it straight, that's more stunning than if you'd actually done some kind of radical character inversion. This really is a straightforward story told really well. And that I'm making it sound more boring than it is. And this is by no means a boring movie.
Well, no, take like the Matt Damon storyline where he's got his daughter and he's basically trying to protect her from the virus. And while everything else is going around, like the whole city is turning to shit, everyone else is getting infected, and he's basically like quarantining her in the house, and she understands it, but at the same time she's resentful. She's resentful because she's missing out on her life, but at the same time, and again, I don't mean to spoil too much, but it's just like nothing exceptional happens, but that's a good thing. It's just characters working out their issues. They realize the situation and they deal with it the best they can. There's no scenes of people trying to break into the house. There's no scenes of, oh, the daughter might be sick or might not be sick.
That's another moment where Matt Damon is looking out the window and he sees a house being broken into by people with shotguns, and so he gets a shotgun himself for safety. But there's never a moment where he actually has to defend his home. It's just that it's a good character moment because you see him preparing to defend himself, but it doesn't get cinematic in that he gets involved in some kind of radical shootout. Again, it's almost anti-cinema in that sense, but it's brilliantly done because you have this really probably the most expansive storyline you could possibly have. It involves everyone in the world, and yet there's character moments. There's moments where he has to defend his house. He arms himself, but it never really goes. It doesn't really go anywhere, which you might, I don't know. But there's also a scene where Lawrence Fishburne is trying to save his wife or his girlfriend or whatever you want to call it, fiance. Let's say fiance. And so there's so many moments where you have these. Probably one of my favorite moments is when Matt Damon goes to the not the coroner, the rest home, the
funeral home.
Funeral home, and he's trying to bury his wife, and they won't take the body. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, does that have anything to do with the pandemic at large? No. But it's a great character moment. You're seeing how this affects Matt Damon on a personal level because it shows the paranoia of people who aren't infected. He's like, I got insurance issues to deal with. Everyone has issues. Everyone has bureaucracy they got to deal with from top to bottom. Exceptional work, really.
But it's like people's favorite foods are the ones that are the simplest.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to mess with the Jenga tower of taste, as it were. You don't have to throw a bunch of ingredients into it to make it taste better. Sometimes the simplest thing is the thing we all go to, and in this case, it's like, you know what? I care about Matt Damon. I care about his characters, and I care about what's going on in his life. You don't need to throw in a scene of him like fending off looters. You don't need a scene where his daughter's sick and he has to give that Matty Damon cry scene of him and his daughter. You don't need to fuck around with it.
There's no weepy scene of him giving really poorly cinematic CPR to somebody going, live, damn it, live. There's no stupid scientist who accidentally shoves a scalpel into her own fist and is like, shit, where was I going with this? You interrupted me. Go ahead.
It's just, it's the best thing in that it's simple and it's done well, and it says something that we're cynical and that we're always expecting something, and we get something. The one of the best examples of movie making we can get is something that doesn't fuck around. It just tells its story and gets out of there.
I remember what I was gonna say. The most cinematic thing I ever saw in that movie, which struck me as kind of fake, and I'm not actually going where you think I'm going with this, was the fact that pretty much every really sick person never covered their mouth when they coughed. Every sick person would, like, all of a sudden Matt Damon's like he's trying to go through the supermarket trying to get some cereal or something like that, and all of a sudden this fucking wretched person like lurches into frame and is like, and he's like, Jesus Christ, woman! And she's like, help me! And I'm like, really?
There's another one where people are in line for food or something like that, and oh no, it's this fake vaccine or whatever.
Yeah.
And in line, someone's going, ugh! And someone goes, cover your mouth, please. And he goes, fuck you.
It's like, fuck you, lady. And I'm like,
really? We're in a global pandemic here. And you think it's inconsiderate someone's telling you to cover your mouth when you cough?
Nobody covered their mouth. Like, they're standing in line, and I'm like, do this. That's it.
We're almost one step away from people going,
yeah, I know. Like, quit touching your face. That's the big thing in the movie is quit touching your face. Don't do that. It's bad. Not that it helped anybody, but yeah, Kate Winslet was like, don't touch your face. But yeah, that's the movie. I would highly recommend you go see this one. And I don't want to ever hear that I don't like anything ever again. So, really great movie. I'm glad I went. So, You got anything else to say?
Oh, excellent
Okay.
movie.
Yeah, we're out.